doesn't give me the same type of vibes that I've had other guys like a Justin Fields give me.
Trying to think how to phrase this because I don't want to throw shade on nobody, because there's a couple of quarterbacks that we're familiar with here in Philadelphia that I know one of them for sure has worked with Tom House because it's been reported. But Carson Wentz saw him last year, and he worked with Adam Dato in his past as well.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about guys come there for different reasons when it comes to the whole holistic approach. But, I mean, we can see that there's, Tom Brady working on, kind of getting to what you're saying, the Randy Johnsons and the Nolan Ryans and, dealing with these older players who still have to throw a tremendous amount of pitches and things like that. Well, now you're getting a guy like Tom Brady where you're trying to endure and kind of make that career last as long as you possibly can. Now you're getting guys like Carson Wentz, who's a highly talented guy. I don't think I've ever heard anyone question the actual talent level, but, he's definitely seemed to have had some struggles here and there that are related and unrelated to football at the same time, kind of, it seems like, almost just being the guy judging it. And we know that, not that Jalen Hurts is confirmed, and I don't want to, we're not here to confirm anything like that. But we do know that Jalen Hurts brought up that, they were taking a holistic approach. He said that in his press conference to his offseason here. When they're setting up these different programs and they're talking about like the holistic approaches, because you talked about like that can be simply like, it could be working on your biomechanics. It can be, working on your ability to read, diagnose the mental acuteness of playing the position. It can be health and recovery. It can be so many things. How does Tom lay out all these different things for all these different players?
Yeah. So that's the great thing about Tom. He's a miracle worker, and he's just magic. And so one thing that Tom has, I've worked with Adam very, 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 very few times. I'm one of Tom's few quarterbacks that he actually still works with. Usually he'll see an NFL quarterback once, see him throw, and he's like, all right, go to Adam. Because Tom's actually really kind of sold all of his kind of football program stuff to Adam, and that's when Adam started 3D QB. But Tom, he's got a way of looking at you and saying, okay, this one thing is wrong with you without even seeing the whole biokinetic sequencing of seeing little dots on your body and seeing you move through a throwing motion, things like that. Like, he can look at you once and say, okay, you're it, you're not. Here's what you need to work on. Here's what you need to work on, and go work on that. And when you come back, I'm gonna hit you with a 2x4 if you can't do it. Yeah, I mean, but in a way, he's kind of like the old grandpa that you want to do it. You don't want to disappoint him. And so Tom's just got a way of diagnosing things that I don't think anybody else can, whether it's mathematically or not. Like, he can look at a guy and say, oh, he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. Step on a scale. Okay, I'm 6 foot, 201 pounds. Okay, yeah. Like, and so it's hard to really kind of diagnose everything, but it's just him. It's the it factor. It's just Tom.
Mm-hmm. So I know you've worked with a lot of guys that have been around Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. Have you ever met Jalen Hurts, and like, what is he like if you have? Like, what's he like as a person, actually, like, one-on-one as an individual, if you've ever had the opportunity to meet him?
Yeah, so my paths have crossed with Jalen Hurts a couple times. Obviously, before I started working with Tom House, I was with his old quarterback coach, and still kind of his quarterback coach off and on with Quincy Avery and QB Takeover. And Jalen's an extremely humble guy, hardworking, doesn't give me the same type of vibes that I've had other guys like a Justin Fields give me. Like, Justin's always rubbed me the wrong way. And I know that's just kind of the edge that he has, so I don't even take it personally. But Jalen's just kind of got this mentality of, okay, I'm here to work. What do I need to do to get better? And whatever I've got to do, I'm going to go do it. And that kind of comes from how his dad brought him up, down in Humble, Texas. I believe that's where he's from. And making him do powerlifting in high school and all these different things. And so Jalen's an extremely hard worker. He doesn't want to stop until he gets it right. And then my paths have kind of crossed with him too, with training over at Apex DFW, kind of where Patrick Mahomes is training, and we're kind of partnered up with a lot of that as well through Tom House Sports. That's kind of our big hub to send guys to, in Dallas Fort Worth, and Sam Ellinger's there, and a lot of good guys there too. But no, I mean, Jalen, just personality wise, he's a guy that can win over a locker room easily. You step in the locker room, regardless of how he looks, the mentality's there, and that's what I think separates him and Carson Wentz. Jalen may not be as talented as Carson is, but Carson doesn't necessarily have that same type of mental fortitude that Jalen has, and Carson knows that. So if Carson's listening, he knows exactly, and he's working on that now with Dato and with mental psychologists and things like that. And I think he's going to be better for it in Washington. The biggest thing is he has kind of Andrew Luck syndrome. And a lot of people don't know this, but Andrew Luck internalized everything. He felt if the team wasn't able to win, he felt if the team was down by 20 and he had to do everything perfect to bring them back, he internalized everything and put so much pressure on himself that he crushed himself. And then at the end of the day, the reason why he retired from football is he never really wanted to play football. He was good at it, so he did it. He wanted to live on a farm with a family and take them to baseball games, take them to football games. And so the first chance he was able to get out, he did. And so I see a couple similarities in Carson and Andrew, just in that kind of mental fortitude. And it's something you can work on, but at the same time, not everybody's got it. And Jalen's one of those guys that has it. And so despite the not amazing success he's had in Philadelphia, I don't doubt that he's going to continue to progress. The biggest thing is how long are Philadelphia faithful gonna give him until the front office is kicking him out the door.
We're not really known for our patience, man.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I know that.
We're very loyal. We're very, we're definitely into it, but we're definitely not probably the most patient fan base. I'll admit that right from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of things. I know that you've definitely spent time working with younger kids, middle school, high school age kids, and when we talk about kinetic sequencing and we're looking at a young man who's throwing the football, what are some of the telltale signs you look for right away when you say, okay, something's out of sequence here, something's not quite right with the footwork? Like what are some of the first things that kind of stand out to you when you notice, like, okay, something, all right, we got to look at this a little closer now?
Yeah. So one myth to debunk, and this took me a while whenever I first joined Tom to get out of this, because this is what I was coached. Excuse me. You've got you see quarterbacks try to step open and clear a midline. Mm-hmm. Like if you're that is leaking so much power out of everything that you're doing. And so if they try to step open, I'm sitting there saying, okay, like this guy can improve. And then we can get into the the biomechanics and the kinetic sequencing of how we need to throw a football. But in terms of footwork, if that's really kind of the first telltale sign. There's not really any other telltale signs immediately that say, okay, no, like this guy like is. I mean, and okay, let me say this: if you're stepping and clearing a midline, you can still be amazing at throwing a football. There's so many that are, but it's not the healthiest, but it's especially not the most powerful. And what you'll see guys like Patrick Mahomes, who can throw 95 just on a whim, like with Patrick, even though he does everything biomechanically correctly, if you had someone of his ability who wasn't throwing correctly, get him to fix one or two things in his throwing motion, and he's able to throw like 120, 140. And it's just little things like that can make you so much better. But then you move up the chain and you see hips and shoulders going together rather than hips and shoulders disassociating. One of the things like in our biomechanics lectures, and one's actually kind of starting now on the Mustard app, and I think Clayton Kershaw is going to be on the one tonight talking with Tom. But one thing that we talk about with a lot of our biomechanics lectures at pitching and quarterback camps is you see these little kids, whether it's Clayton Kershaw's kid, because we have a cute little picture of like 4-year-old, like Clayton Kershaw's 4-year-old kid throwing a baseball off the mound at a Dodger game. And so what you'll see is he's never been trained ever in his life to throw a baseball or to throw a football. But when he's sitting here in pre-pass going to throw, like your body wants to do the right thing. But you see so many guys get coached out of what their body wants to do when they first pick up a football or when they first pick up a baseball, because you look at Aaron Rodgers or you look at Patrick Mahomes and what it looks like, but you're not slowing it down to truly see the super millisecond by millisecond movement of everything. And so the two biggest tells then from moving up the chain, because it all starts from your feet and slowly moves up the chain, the hips need to disassociate from the shoulders. So you'll see the hips pretty much fired forward with the back foot with the plantar flexion. So it's kind of like your toes off the ground like that. And the hip is completely forward. It's that DAC drill you see. It's one of our drills, the whole DAC dance, whatever. And that's one of our drills to help kind of disassociate the hips. And so you want to keep your shoulders closed, if not a tad bit inside. And then once you kind of come on around, you want to get here, have your hand out in front like you have a cheeseburger in hand, and torso flex and eat that cheeseburger in hand. And Tom Brady's got a little method, and that I use it too, because me and Tom are very similar in terms of mechanics, but I think I compare most to Drew in terms of play style. Where
so you're not
if I get here,
so you're not a Pledge of Allegiance guy.
Well, I kind of am. So what Brady has is one of his tells is whenever he throws, he should be able to let his hand fall on his shoulder.
Sure.
Whenever he's done. And now you're not trying to touch your shoulder in the middle of throwing, but throw and then, okay, can you touch your shoulder? If you just relax the hand, and that will tell you if you're fully going to the hand. But one of the other big things with this hand is you see a lot of guys being taught to, like I said, open up and clear a midline with your foot to open up the hip, because you're thinking you're creating rotational power. Well, part of the thing in creating rotational power is you rip that glove or rip that front side in to try to rotate and throw. That's doing so much damage in here, and that's what breaks arms, whether it's baseball, football, whatever. And you're leaking so much power too. And so just sit and watch Drew Brees in his biomechanics. He strides closed. So his stride forward is closed. And the actual stride distance and length that we try as a quarterback is one of your feet in 0.17 of a second. So in 0.17 milliseconds. So if you can get one of your feet in 0.17 of a millisecond and get the hip started and get plantar flexion to get the hip moving and dissociate the shoulders, and then keep that front side firm, that ball is going to zip out of your hand, and your hand's just going to whip like a towel. It feels like you're throwing the hardest you've ever thrown, and you don't feel like you've tried at all.